Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week, for the week of June 1st to 7th, 2025. Happy Nintendo Switch 2 week, though. Hopefully you guys were able to get a Nintendo Switch 2, whether you pre-ordered it or wait in line, whether it was through a midnight launch or not, though. Unfortunately for me, I have to wait until, at least according to Walmart, at least on their app though, I have to wait until 8 p.m. tomorrow, supposedly for it to be delivered to my place. So I'm hoping it gets delivered tomorrow on time and everything like that, though. So hopefully I'm able to get my Nintendo Switch 2 this week, though. I'm hoping to try to maybe set it up when it does come in and everything like that. So some stuff here and there, I'm still waiting for mine. But in either case, hopefully you guys were able to nab a Nintendo Switch 2 if you were planning to get one indeed. But anyway, we have basically 4 stories to cover, including Sony's State of Play that happened this week. We also want to be looking at CD Projekt Red, as they were certainly in the news this week, ranging from an interview with IGN over basically Cyberpunk 2077 on the Switch 2 to basically showing off Witcher 4 running on Unreal Engine 5 with a update that sort of came in recently. Nintendo responding to Bloomberg over an interesting article for supposedly plans for Japanese retailers and everything. And finally, a report coming out about several those who pre-ordered the Nintendo Switch 2 basically getting their pre-orders canceled. If you're interested in where I got the source of this information, links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube or Patreon. And of course, timestamps will also be in the description of this video. If there are certain parts of this video you wish to skip to, again, timestamps are timestamps are available if you're watching this on YouTube or Patreon. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My 2 Cent, stories that kind of caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details though. The first one has to do with the director who worked on games like The World Ends With You, and he also worked on Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts, though. He's going to be leaving Square Enix, having been there for about 29 years, though. A little unfortunate to see this person leave and everything like that, but nevertheless, probably this person wanted to do something else or something different, and I mean, hey, there's nothing wrong with that or anything like that. We also had a new Nintendo's Creator video, but this one is done by the NVIDIA CEO, talking about basically the Switch 2 in terms of this being the most unique mobile chip that we've never seen before or anything like that. Although it is worth pointing out, I heard something similar to when we saw the Switch 1 came out and everything, and it turned out to be what was powering the Switch 1 was a second generation Maxwell architect chip from the Tegra X1 series and all, and supposedly the chip powering the Switch 2 is basically the T239 chip though, but it is still an interesting video nevertheless. And he also brings up the late Shigeru Iwata and all, so that's kind of interesting indeed. We basically saw a report from CD Projekt Red talking about how they aren't straying away from AAA open world RPGs. This is what's on Video Game Chronicles. They talked about how they tried other approaches and it didn't work for them and all. I mean, some developers like to diversify and do different approaches and all. Others are just good at certain things and everything like that. I guess one way you kind of look at this is, let's say, and I know this is not video game related, Blumhouse Production or Blumhouse Studio though. They are a film company, but they specialize mostly in horror or suspenseful type of movies and all. That's what they're mostly famous for, to be exact, and that has worked for them a lot. A lot of the movies did very well at the box office, so I could see something similar to this with CD Projekt Red, which they are, and according to them, more focused on AAA open world RPGs and all. We also learned that supposedly there are rumors coming out of several games that could be shown at the Xbox Showcase, which is the next showcase that will be happening on Sunday. Basically, we've heard rumors from ranging from the Persona 4 remake might be showing up during this Xbox Showcase, and now we're learning that Spyro 4 could actually be shown during the Xbox Showcase, though. What remains to be seen, if this rumor is true, is whether Toys for Bot is working on Spyro 4. You know, Toys for Bot has left basically Activision Blizzard, I mean, after, you know, Microsoft purchased Activision Blizzard and all, but they have expressed interest in working with Microsoft, so there is a possibility they could be working on Spyro 4, but it's also possible it could be another developer and all. We also learned that supposedly Elden Ring Night Rain, if I'm saying the name correctly, has basically done very well for Bandai Namco and From Software, as it has now launched over, I think, 3.5 million sales, though. So from what I understand, that's a different take on the Elden Ring, as I think it's more multiplayer focused and all, although supposedly there is a patch for the single player part and everything. But in either case, though, it seems that game is doing very well for Bandai Namco and everything, and of course From Software. Although I would be open to the idea if they ever do a Elden Ring 2 and all. That would be very interesting if they actually do that. Right now, we know they are working on a Switch 2 exclusive with Nintendo called the Duskblood that was shown during their Switch 2 presentation. That won't be out towards next year and all, but hey, I'm open to... It's great that the Elden Ring series is doing very well. I'm open to hopefully seeing would be open to a sequel to Elden Ring if they ever do that and all. And last but not least, though, a video was shown of an update for the Switch version of No Man's Sky, as it shows some new content they put in, but also for the Switch 2, it will be running at 60 FPS, though, which I would say that looks very impressive indeed that they got that game running at that, especially considering how far No Man's Sky has gotten over the years since the game originally launched, and was controversial because people didn't think it lived up to the expectations. I believe there is an update for this one. I believe, from what I understand, it's supposed to be free, which, assuming that is correct, though, I think that's good. I think that's great that they're offering that for free, if that is true and all. So great for Switch 2 owners who want to maybe try out No Man's Sky. The update is available right now. And in the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we saw another trailer for the upcoming sequel to Happy Gilmore with Happy Gilmore 2. I'm going to be curious to see how this one is going to work, though. I think the concept could work, but we'll see. Sometimes these long-awaited sequels can be sort of a hit or miss, though. I remember the original one as a classic in my book, though, so hopefully this one will do well on Netflix and everything. So it's going to be very interesting to see that one, though. And unfortunately, in sad news, we learned that Jonathan Joss, he appeared in shows like Park and Recreation, but most might remember him as voicing, I believe, John Redcorn for the King of the Hill series, which is also getting a revival and everything. Unfortunately passed away. It was because of a shooting, and the claim was the report is that he was protecting his partner because the shooter was making homophobic slurs and all, and I outright condemn that. That is absolutely despicable that had happened, though. And I would say my heart goes out to his friends, his families, and also fans who enjoyed his work and all. Okay, with the Quick My 2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My 2 Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this one has to do with the Switch 2, particularly for those who pre-ordered the system this week and all. Now, for many, when the pre-orders started, though, there were many who opted for several places. Some chose to go to retailers like GameStop to pre-order the systems. Others chose to go online when the pre-orders went live online on sites like Best Buy, Target, and Walmart, and so forth. Because of the situation surrounding the opening, where the store opening or store schedule for the GameStop close to me, and when I had to be at work and everything, my only option was basically to go online. And while there were some rough spots here and there, Target, in my view, Target was the worst. Best Buy was a little bit better. Walmart, I would say, was better than the other two. Some rough spots, but I was able to pre-order my system from Walmart. And since then, I've been checking, the pre-order status just to make sure everything was up and about and everything. So for me, though, they're saying, like I said earlier in this video, they're saying 8 p.m. to be delivered at my place this Saturday. So fingers crossed and hoping that is the case. However, there seems to be indication that there are some folks who may have found their pre-orders to be canceled and everything like that. And that has some folks were not happy about this and anything like that, even leading to some folks pointing out what they think could have happened to their pre-orders. Several articles, but one I would say from Polygon seem to say that, quote, they're saying that some people are getting hit with news that they won't be getting the Nintendo Switch 2 at all. The article continues saying Walmart's pre-order in particular seems to be getting hit the hardest, judging from a dozen posts on social media sites like X and Reddit. While some customers aren't surprised at this turn event, they placed pre-orders the day after most have been sold out at other major retailers. Others say they placed their orders the day that they went live. The situation perceived enough that it prompted paranoia among fans who are now regularly refreshing the status of their orders and are praying that they won't be next. As news spread, it became evident that some cancellations are not happening due to a lack of stock. Although there's been some complaint, some people thinking that might be the case. Some people have discovered that their order was flagged for fraud by their credit card companies, which prevents retailers like Walmart from charging their order. In those cases, getting in contact with your bank might be the quickest way to ensure that you get the order, get the process properly. Walmart seems to be attempting to do the right by customers, though, with some reports of fans being offered gift cards and apology for canceled orders. While Walmart appears to be the most prevalent case of canceled pre-orders, there are still reports on social media hailing from customers and other retailers like Target and Best Buy. And in case of Best Buy, some customers are encouraging each other to get into the physical store for help, as the retailer's phone line had proven unhelpful. GameStop has taken the opportunity to gloat about the status of their pre-orders, only to be met with response from people who had also had their orders canceled and everything. They point out it might be worth checking your pre-orders to make sure things are moving smoothly, though. As most major retailers have reported of canceled orders, in some cases people are indeed being promised consoles, but they won't arrive on launch day necessary. Now, there could be there are different theories or different things that could have led to a lot of their pre-orders being canceled. Some have pointed to sort of a glitch in the system, especially for Walmart. There have been some people who have claimed that, and that's a possibility, though, to be exact. Others could be that they may have, or other places could have may have taken in too many pre-orders and don't have enough Switch 2s, although there have been although Nintendo supposedly have claimed that they will have plenty of Switch 2s available for everyone. And then the credit card situation, I would say that I could see that as a possibility as well. When I pre-ordered the Switch 2 from Walmart on the day pre-orders actually went live, I used my credit card. I used a Quicksilver Capital One. And basically, once I made the pre-order and all, they did texted me and tell me, was this purchase verified and everything? I said yes. And they said, go ahead and everything like that. So, I mean, there is a possibility some folks may have used, maybe pre-order through their bank account, and when it was time to pay and everything like that, the money probably wasn't there. I mean, I got a text from Capital One last week saying the order you made has been approved and everything. So, I mean, there are multiple factors to take in that may have led to a lot of these pre-orders being canceled. I mean, if it is a credit card issue, obviously you probably want to contact the credit card holder, or if you're using a bank credit card, you might want to contact them. That's the case, though. But it is very unfortunate indeed if that is the case, that a lot of these people got these pre-orders canceled out. Again, it can be on the retailer side. It could be on those who made the pre-order, who made the mistake as well. So it could be either one of those cases. But no matter what, though, it still sucks, though, the fact that some of those folks may have gotten their pre-orders canceled, everything like that. So overall, hopefully when you pre-ordered the Nintendo Switch, whether it was on Switch 2, whether it was on online, hopefully yours went through as smooth as it possibly can, though. Obviously, but there's no denying that there probably were hiccups for those who were trying to pre-order a Nintendo Switch 2 when pre-orders went live and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with a supposedly Nintendo responding to Bloomberg's article that they put out, which normally Nintendo doesn't respond to a lot of these things. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at an interesting situation with Nintendo responding to an article from Bloomberg. Now, Nintendo doesn't normally, and I do mean normally, do not respond to when there are articles that are coming out about them, though. I'm not saying they won't. I mean, there are times they will respond to a situation, but they normally choose not to speak about it and everything like that. But this article from Bloomberg seemed to have caught their attention, and they did respond to this. Now, Bloomberg, you can agree or disagree with them on certain things. They had reported on Nintendo before with, at the time with the whole Switch Pro thing and all. On the other hand, one of their reporters, Jason Schreier, who I believe worked at Polygon before coming to Bloomberg, does have a pretty good track record with some of his stuff, though. So I wouldn't outright ignore what he says, though, when he's doing an article from Bloomberg. But obviously, this is not the article that he worked on, and apparently, like I said, Nintendo did respond to this. From an article from The Gamer, it reads that, quote, yesterday, Bloomberg released a report suggesting Nintendo was making a retail-friendly move in Japan, which saw manufacturers' share price tumble. However, it didn't take long for Nintendo to rebuff these claims. The claim is that, according to Bloomberg, Nintendo has reduced the wholesale price of Nintendo Switch 2 units in Japan. It allows retailers to make a gross margin of around 5% on the console as opposed to the 2% they usually receive. This would mean that retailers are making roughly $22.49, up from the $8.99. It's unclear if the two are related, but following the news, Nintendo's shares dropped by 2.2%, Bloomberg reported. Clearly unhappy, Nintendo issued a statement via its corporate Twitter/X account stating the report from Bloomberg was not true. According to their statement, they said, quote, on June 2nd, 2025, a news report related to the wholesale price of the Nintendo Switch 2 in the Japanese market was published. It said, we want to clarify that this report is not true. Nintendo does not disclose any information regarding business conditions with distributions and retail price. It is very rare for Nintendo to comment on individual news reports, so it's likely that this one from Bloomberg widely missed the mark or contained factual information Nintendo didn't want retailers around the world to see. Now, I don't work with retail. I never worked in these kinds of retailers before, so this one, it's still, never worked in these kind of retailers. Nevertheless, though, it is still kind of interesting to see Nintendo actually respond to this and everything like that. They rarely do that, so obviously something really did set them off. Now, I don't know if this report is true or not. To be exact, though, it is a possibility. It could be. It's a possibility it may not be at all. But in either case, though, it definitely rubbed Nintendo the wrong way. And I do think if this report was true, that sounded a little bit generous in a way to Nintendo, though, although it would raise question of why they would be doing this in the Japanese market and not, like, say, the other markets out there. Nevertheless, though, Nintendo responded. They're saying this report is wrong and everything, and whether you think this report is true or not, that's entirely up to you to decide, though. It is worth pointing out Bloomberg has some history of saying, putting out some information about Nintendo that isn't always 100% correct and everything like that, but whatever the case may be, this article definitely got Nintendo's response, and Nintendo, well, did respond, though. So overall, very interesting to see Nintendo respond to this article from Bloomberg. Whether you think Bloomberg was right or Nintendo is right, I would say that's up for you to interpret and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with CD Projekt Red in regards of Witcher 4 running on Unreal Engine 5, and basically CD Projekt Red talking to IGN regarding, how they got Cyberpunk 2077 running on the Switch 2. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at CD Projekt Red. They were certainly in the news this week, basically speaking at an event and one with IGN. And during the event, they were with basically was hosted by, I think, Epic with the whole Unreal Engine 5, and they were showing off basically some tech demo, or basically showing off what was basically Witcher 4, the next chapter in the Witcher series that CD Projekt Red is working on, basically showing off that game running on the Unreal Engine 5 and everything like that. And the game did look very impressive. They did show that the game was running basically on the PS5 using basically certain features here and there. Now, some folks thought this was basically the actual game itself and everything like that. However, following that presentation, basically they did have to respond and say that's not quite it. And this has to do what I found on Video Game Chronicles that reported on it. They offered an update, and it said, quote, CD Projekt Red had confirmed to Video Game Chronicles that what was shown wasn't Witcher 4 gameplay, but a tech demo set in the Witcher 4 world. This is a tech demo and a first look at the cutting-edge technology powering The Witcher 4, but not The Witcher 4 itself, a spokesperson told VGC. It showcased the powerful foundation we're building in close collaboration with Epic Games to push the open world design further than ever before at its core system and features we're developing using Unreal Engine 5. We're really proud of this early milestone and excited to give you a sneak peek at some of the cool tech like UAF, nanite foliage, smart objects, ML deformer, and fast geo-streaming that are helping shape the future of The Witcher. Now, obviously, that I can understand why some people might be concerned with that, because we've been down this road before, though. Remember when Cyberpunk 2077 was shown years and years ago, and a lot of promises were made, and when the game officially launched back in 2020, it did not deliver on a lot of the promises, and it took CD Projekt Red years to rebuild that game and get it back to the position that it is right now, which is loved by a lot of folks out there, not to mention supposedly there are reports of a new DLC or something like that in the works, though. But that's a very slippery slope to show off with Witcher 4, and the fact that some folks thought this was actual gameplay, I can see why some people why that updated statement from them might be somewhat concerning, because many do feel like this could be the same situation they saw with Cyberpunk 2077, though. So I do think CD Projekt Red needs to be very careful, because the last thing they want, I would say the last thing that they want is another Cyberpunk 2077 type of a situation, though. I mean, it definitely shows potential and some of the features that using Unreal Engine 5 that The Witcher 4 can use. So it certainly is very interesting indeed, but obviously the game is years away, so it remains to be seen when we'll see actual gameplay, not a tech demo for using Unreal Engine 5. As far as whether this will make its way to the Switch 2 or Nintendo's platform, I would say that remains to be seen at this time. That said, given the fact that supposedly the Switch 2 does support Unreal Engine 5, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Witcher 4 could make its way over to the Switch 2 or whatever Nintendo's next system might be, though. I mean, it's possible it could be years away before we see another entry. I mean, years away before that entry comes to Nintendo's platform. That's a possibility, too. It's also possible a Porthouse studio could handle it. After all, Witcher 3 was handled by Saber Interactive, so time will ultimately tell if that happens, though. But either way, although the tech demo was impressive, though, you still have to be careful that it's just a tech demo and not the actual gameplay. That's a very, I would say, very slippery slope and everything. Also during this week, though, CD Projekt Red also sat down with basically IGN and talked about how they were able to get Cyberpunk 2077 onto the Nintendo Switch 2. And it was a very interesting video that they put out Indeed, and it was I'm still very impressed how they were able to pull this off and get this game running properly on the Switch 2 and all. Some of the stuff they mentioned in this article from IGN, they talked about how basically really thought this was going to be more of a challenge, but in the end it's not that much. They talked about how they started working on this game, I believe it was, back in summer of 2023 when Nintendo met with CD Projekt Red discussing its then top secret new hardware. At that point, there was no software development kit, just more like, okay, is there a possibility for us to collaborate with this hardware? I remember I was in the room and we just looked at each other. It was like, yeah, of course, we'll check it out. It looked like a really cool project and all. They also talked about, DLSS in here. They said that during the early stage of production, one of the main aims was simply to try to figure out if running Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 is ever possible. As it became clear that the hardware was capable, a key tool ensuring that experience was as strong as possible was NVIDIA's DLSS system. This rendering technology uses artificial intelligence to upscale lower resolution and generate frames, resulting in sharper images with increased frame rate. With DLSS, it definitely increases the quality you can have on the go and on the TV. That being said, the technology we built scaled very well across all platforms. We can adjust crowd density, we can adjust the fidelity we want the characters to have when we switch levels of details. So it was very, very easy, and of course the DLSS helped bring the quality to another level, but I thought all those things together made the port very good. So it certainly is impressive indeed that they managed to get this game running on the Switch 2. It was probably one of my surprise announcements to see when Nintendo held their Switch 2 Direct in early April and all. So certainly neat indeed, though, and I do think the DLSS certainly sounds impressive, and it will be very interesting to see how developers utilize that technology if they choose to bring their games over to the Switch 2 indeed. So very interesting video from IGN regarding CD Projekt Red and all. So overall, I would say very interesting week for CD Projekt Red, showing off a tech demo of Witcher 4 running on Unreal Engine 5, although having to respond a little bit to some of the stuff, and IGN's interview with CD Projekt Red in terms of how they got Cyberpunk 2077 running on the Switch 2. Here's hoping to see more games from CD Projekt Red to make its way over to the Switch 2 system and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with Sony's State of Play that happened this week. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, I'm going to be taking a look at Sony's State of Play that happened this week. So now that we have now officially entered June and be at the start of, or at least going into the summer and all, usually around this time we are basically do see some of these companies start doing their presentation. While Ubisoft is basically saying they're not doing one at least this year and all, we are seeing basically Sony having theirs, and of course Microsoft is going to have theirs on Sunday with a Outer World 2 showcase. And we're still waiting to hear from Nintendo when they'll do their direct. Many are believing it could happen this month, but time will ultimately tell if that is the case or not. But the first one out of the gate is Sony with their State of Play. And I will say, when it comes to their State of Play, it's, I would say, been mixed at best though. Sometimes they are good, other times they're like not really that great. I will say with this State of Play, based on what I watched, I will say this is one of their better State of Plays that they have put out. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it certainly was definitely one of their better ones though. So I'm going to break it down into what I liked and what I didn't like, mixed or not 100% sure about the latest Sony State of Play. In terms of what I like, I will say that I'm glad that Nioh 3 was announced. This one was kind of a little bit surprising to hear them announce this, because I do remember hearing how Nioh 1 and 2, or the second one, was going to be like the last entry and they weren't possibly not going to do another one. So to hear that they were doing a third one is definitely interesting indeed. Plus there's also a demo out for it, so that certainly is good and all. So very nice to see this one come out. It'll be very interesting to see if Nioh 3 takes any inspiration or any elements of gameplay that were in like the first or second, to Wulong Fallen Dynasty, to Rise of the Ronin. So it's going to be very interesting to see with Nioh 3. The other one is Capcom's Pomegranate Isn't Dead. For those who are not familiar, this game I believe was announced around the time of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X launch and all. It was sort of this new IP from Capcom. But since then, it kind of has disappeared off the radar and no one knew exactly what happened to this game and all. So to see it come back again during this State of Play was certainly interesting indeed. And I will admit it's probably one I will be keeping an eye out for. The next one is Silent Hill F. I will say this one looks kind of interesting indeed. It is a little bit different than what we've seen maybe in past Silent Hill games and everything like that, not to mention the setting being a bit different. But nevertheless, it is one I will definitely be keeping an eye out. The next one is, of course, Astro Bot. I did enjoy Astro Bot when it was released on the PS5. I think it is still a good game nevertheless, and I would like to see more of those kind of platforming games from Sony and all. And to hear that we'll get more DLC is certainly nice indeed. Another surprise announcement was a entry into the Bloodstained series with Bloodstained: The Scarlet Engagement. That one is definitely on my radar. I definitely liked basically I definitely like these Metroidvania type of games indeed, so I'm definitely pleased that they made this announcement and all. Interesting enough, the surprise announcement is that we also got Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivans, if I say the name correctly, Chronicles. I never played the original Final Fantasy Tactics when it came out, so this is one I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for, although we are learning that this game, along with some other games that were also shown, although not every single one of them, will be coming to other systems like the Xbox Series X and S, to even I think this one coming to the Nintendo Switch. So, but either case, surprise announcement from Square Enix to revive this one. And last but not least is a brand new Suda51 game called Romeo is a Dead Man. I do enjoy Suda51's games. I think they are very unique and has a unique art style and all, and it's definitely one on my radar and indeed. So this is one I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for, the new one called Romeo is a Dead Man. As far as what I didn't like or mixed or not really 100% sure though, I will say, although they did show Ghosts of Yotai and we did get to see first look at 007 First Light, I am a little disappointed that we saw like little to no gameplay of that though. Now obviously they did mention we'll hear something in July. I think Ghost of Yotai will have a state of play or something like that for that game in general. I do believe we'll hear more about 007 First Light also in July though, but I'm a little disappointed we didn't really see some gameplay. It would have been nice if they had shown it during this state of play and all. The next one is the Baby Step game, and maybe it's me, but that just looks weird. I don't know. This one, the Baby Step one, just doesn't click with me as much. I mean, I'm sure there's an audience for it, but I'm just not feeling it with this game and everything. And last but not least, I will say it is a little disappointing that there were some light on first-party game announcements for this state of play. I'm not saying there weren't any first-party games that were announced, but it was just, at least in my view, somewhat light to be exact. But at least if there's one silver lining is that we didn't hear like a whole bunch of like live service type of games, which, let's be honest, outside of Helldivers 2, Sony has really been criticized in terms of their live service approach, though. So, but either way, I will say it was a little bit light on the first-party game announcement for this. Overall, I would say this was definitely one of Sony's better state of plays that they put out, though. While it's not perfect, I definitely liked a lot of the games that they were shown on this one. I think this was definitely an improvement over past state of plays and all. So I will say they did a very good job with this one. It will be very interesting if the next one, when that does happen, they improve on this one, to be exact though. But in either case, there were some pretty good announcements, and I thought presentation-wise, I think Sony did a very good job, at least with this state of play. So thumbs up on this one for the latest state of play from Sony and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick... I'm sorry. I mean, we're done with this video. My bad on this one. And again, for this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about some of the Switch 2 pre-orders being canceled and all? Do you think it could be a glitch on retailers like Walmart and everything? Do you think it's possible they took in too many pre-orders and didn't have enough stock in this time? Do you think it's possible that when it came to pay for these pre-orders, people didn't have money into their credit cards or their bank accounts? Or do you think it could be something else? What are your thoughts about Nintendo responding to Bloomberg's article? Do you think Nintendo was right to respond to this? Or do you think Bloomberg was spot on in terms of what they said about what Nintendo was, working with or working out some sort of deal with Japanese retailers? What are your thoughts about CD Projekt Red this week? Were you impressed with the tech demo of Witcher 4 running on Unreal Engine 5, or do you think it could raise concerns about the possibility of another Cyberpunk 2077 type situation? And what about IGN's, interview with CD Projekt Red in regarding the Switch 2 port of Cyberpunk 2077? Did this convince you to pick up the Switch 2 version in any way, or did it not really convince you at all? And what are your thoughts about Sony's state of play this week? Do you think this was a good state of play? Do you think this is one of their better ones, or one of the best ones they've done? Or do you think this state of play was just outright terrible? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!